So in this class we will see the gross anatomy of the kidneys. So we are seeing the abdominal viscera starting from the spleen we started. You go in this order of lectures. It will be easy for you to understand this viscera and their relations. So same order if you follow, it will be easy for you. Spleen, stomach, then cecum, appendix, liver, duodenum, pancreas. So that's the portal vein, extrahepatic biliary apparatus. So that's the order to understand the relations of the viscera in the abdomen. So with this, we will now start with the gross anatomy of the kidneys. So this is important for you in the theory exam, and also you will be given the kidneys in the anatomy practical exams also. Situation of the kidneys. It is, the kidneys are retroperitoneal and it is situated in the posterior abdominal wall, extending from the 12th thoracic to the 3rd lumbar vertebra. So that is the situation of the kidneys. So you can see in this, so it is situated in relation to the 12th thoracic to the 3rd lumbar vertebra. You see the axis of the kidney, it has one long axis and one transverse axis. Long axis is downwards and lateral. You should draw a line as if from the vertebral column, it is lateral. You should draw the line. That is the axis, the long axis of the kidney. Transverse axis is should draw the line slightly backwards from the vertebral column. So that is laterally and backwards. That is the transverse axis of the kidney. Because this kidney rests on the paravertebral gutter of the muscles. You see the long axis, as we told, upper end is nearer to the vertebral column than the lower end. So this is the transpyloric plane which passes through the hilum of the kidneys. If you see in the right side, it will pass through the upper lip of the hilum of the right kidney. In the left side, it will pass through the lower lip of the hilum of the left kidney. So hilum, this transpyloric plane, so many structures are situated in the line of the transpyloric plane, fundus of the gallbladder, hilum of the kidneys, then pylorus of the stomach. So this is the transpyloric plane. Measurements, if you see, it is 11 centimeter length, 6 centimeter breadth, 3 centimeter thickness, and in adult male it is approximately 150 to 170 grams, and in the female it is slightly less of about 130 to 150 grams. Shape, it is bean shaped with the hilum directed medially. If you see the factors keeping the kidneys in position, so the main factor is the pressure exerted by the neighboring viscera and by the tone of the abdominal muscles, and mainly also this renal fascia and renal fat keep the kidneys in the position, and also the structures passing through the hilum of the kidneys called as pedicles of the kidney, they also keep these kidneys in the position. Coverings of the kidney from inner to outer: fibrous capsule, perinephric fat, renal fascia also called as fascia of Gerotta, and paranephric fat. We will see these coverings one by one. Fibrous capsule is the true capsule of the kidney. So it is reflected even inside and lines the walls of the renal sinus. If the kidney is healthy, you can just reflect the capsule from the surface of the kidneys. So that in nephropexy operation, that is to fix a movable kidney, so this fibrous capsule is divided along the lateral wall of the kidney. and this rolled out posterior flap of the capsule is sutured to the last rib of the or the muscle of the posterior abdominal wall. So this is the nephropexy. As you see, this fibrous capsule is reflected as tubular sheets inside the kidneys around the major and the minor calyces also. So we have finished the fibrous capsule or the true capsule. Second is the perinephric fat. It occupies between the fibrous capsule and the renal fascia. This renal fascia is interesting. Fascia of Gerotto. It contains two layers, anterior layer fascia of Tolt and posterior layer fascia of Zuckerkandl. If you see this, this is the extension of the anterior layer and the posterior layer. So this is the anterior layer of the renal fascia and this is the posterior layer of the renal fascia. This is the upper extent of the renal fascia and this is the lower extent of the renal fascia. If you see the laterally both layers are fused. This anterior layer and posterior layers, both layers are fused at the lateral border of the kidney and are continuous with the fascia transversalis. If you see medially, the anterior layer covers the front of the kidney and is continuous with the layer of the opposite side in front of the aorta and the inferior vena cava. If you see the posterior layer, it covers the back of the kidney and blends with the psoas fascia. So this is the psoas muscle it is resting on. So it is blending with the psoas fascia. Upper limit of this renal fascia, if you see, both layers fuse at the upper end of the kidneys, then resplit to enclose this suprarenal glands to form the suspensory ligament of the suprarenal gland. That's why that explains even if you have the downward displacement of the kidneys, the suprarenal glands will keep its position by this suspensory ligament of the suprarenal gland. Below, if you see, both layers fuse and finally last in the extraperitoneal tissue of the iliac fossa. So this is the renal fascia which is formed by the condensation of extraperitoneal connective tissue around the kidney, and we have traced laterally, medially, above and below also. Now the relations presenting parts of the kidneys, then we will see the relations. Presenting parts of the kidney, each kidney contains two ends, upper end and lower end, medial border and lateral border, one posterior surface and another anterior surface. So that's, we will see one by one. First we will see the posterior surface. It is flat and directed backwards and medially. So you have to identify the side of the kidneys in the practicals. One, you should keep the hilum in the position. Then you should keep the flat surface behind and convex surface front. So this is the flat surface. So what is its relation? If you see how to divide this surface into two parts, upper part and lower part. Okay, so this is the upper part of the relations. Upper part is related to diaphragm, that is the medial arcuate ligament and lateral arcuate ligaments. So upper part is related to that, and also to the 11th and 12th ribs on the left side, 12th rib only on the right side. So in between these ribs and the diaphragm, we'll have the costodiaphragmatic recess of the pleura. So here it is related to diaphragm, ribs, in between costodiaphragmatic recess. In the lower part, if you see, it is resting on the posterior abdominal wall muscle. So what are the posterior abdominal wall muscles? So here it is related to psoas major, here it is related to the quadratus lumborum, and more laterally will be the transversus abdominis. So this is the muscles, and in between these muscles and this kidney we have the paranephric fat which intervenes between the renal fascia and thoracolumbar fascia. Deep to the thoracolumbar fascia, in front of quadratus lumborum, we have these following structures from above downwards. They are the subcostal vessels and nerves, iliohypogastric nerve, ilioinguinal now. One more it is not given in this picture is fourth lumbar artery. So this is deep to the thoracolumbar fascia and in front of quadratus lumborum. So these are the first immediate relations. Then these are deep to the thoracolumbar fascia. Then the muscles will be related to this posterior surface of the kidneys. So posterior surface relations of both kidneys are same. So you should note this point. Anterior relations of the both kidneys will differ on the right side and left side. But posterior relations of the kidneys are same for both kidneys. So before we go to the anterior surface, we will see what is this renal angle. Renal angle is between the lower border of the 12th rib and the lateral border of the erector spinae muscle. So here is the exactly renal colic pain starts from this angle in the inflammation of the kidneys. And one more thing is renal angle is very important. So this angle between the lower border of the 12th rib and the erector spinae muscle. So you have to expose the kidney or for any reasons below this renal angle only. Otherwise, here it is related to the costodiaphragmatic recess of the pleura. So we will damage the pleural recesses. And one more thing is when we are counting this 12th rib, you should always count from the sternal angle from the front, not from the behind or from the lower part. Why? Because is sometimes 12th rib may be absent. Then you will see the 11th rib and here you will land up in the false renal angle. So that in procedures we may damage this costodiaphragmatic recess. So that is the importance of this renal angle. Anterior relations of both kidneys are differing as the viscera are different on both sides of the right side and the left side. So now we will see the right kidney. Both kidneys present the suprarenal impressions on the upper ends. So both relations are non-peritoneal. So it is related. Here first we will see the right side. Suprarenal area, it includes upper pole and also upper part of the medial border of the kidney and it is related to the right suprarenal gland. Then opposite the hilum of the right kidney, what is that part of the duodenum related? Second part of the duodenum. So this is that posterior, it is related to the posterior surface of the second part of the duodenum. Then it is hepatic area is main. So hepatic area is main at the right side. Where it is related to the liver, it's which lobe? Inferior surface of the right lobe of the liver. This is that which is separated by the, so you have to think here is the liver. So this right lobe of the liver inferior surface is related to this, but separated between these two only we have the hepatorenal pouch or Morrison's pouch, which we learned in the peritoneum section. In the lower part, related to the colic area and this is that lateral part of the lower pole related to the right colic flexure and this is the colic area. Medial part is related to the jejunal coils. This is peritoneal area and this is the non-peritoneal area. This is again peritoneal area and this is non-peritoneal area. So 5 relations we have seen in the right side anterior surface. Liver, here the right suprarenal gland, second part of the duodenum, right colic flexure and coils of jejunum. You come to the left side, 3 are same here. Same suprarenal, colic flexure, left colic flexure here and coils of jejunum. So what are the other 3 relations on the left side anterior surfaces opposite to the hilum of the left kidney? What is that relation? Which part of the pancreas? Posterior surface of the body of the pancreas. So here is the posterior surface of the body of the pancreas is related opposite to the hilum. Then splenic area is occupying upper 2/3 of the lateral border and related to the renal impression of the spleen. Spleen has 2 impressions, gastric impression and renal impression. So this is the splenic area. In between these 3, Pancreas, splenic area, and adrenal suprarenal area is the gastric area, which intervenes between these three. Related to the, so this is the part of the kidney which forms the stomach bed, related to the posterior-inferior surface of the stomach, separated by the cavity of the lesser side. So I think you have understood the anterior relations of both kidneys. In this, three are peritoneal and three are non-peritoneal on the left side. Gastric area and splenic area and jejunal area are peritoneal, and remaining area are non-peritoneal. Three glands come in contact with the left kidney. They are suprarenal, spleen, and pancreas. So this completes the anterior relations of both kidneys. You should note which question is asked, whether anterior surface of right kidney is asked in the exam or anterior surface of left kidney is asked in the exam, because there are some difference in the relations you have to note. Upper end, it is thicker and more rounded than the lower end. It is 2.5 centimeter from the median plane opposite to the T12 vertebra. Lower end, you see, this is the axis we told. Upper end is near the vertebral column, as if this kidney is like this line. So this is downwards and laterally. That is the axis. Lower end is 7.5 centimeter from the median plane opposite to the L3. Lateral border again lies on the more posterior. That's how it is. This transverse axis, it is slightly posterior. Lateral border is posterior. Medial border convex in the upper and lower parts and presents a hilum in the middle part. This hilum is about 5 centimeter from the midline. So you see, upper end is 2.5 centimeter, lower end is 1.5 centimeter, and hilum is 5 centimeter from the midline. So this is opposite to the lower border of L1 vertebra. So before we go to this Morris parallelogram, we will see the structures passing through the hilum of the kidneys. You should know from before backwards: renal vein, renal artery, and pelvis of the ureter. This is the way to how to identify the side of the kidneys. How to see the structures in the hilum of the kidneys. You should keep vein in front, ureter behind and downwards. So, and then posterior surface will be flat and the anterior surface will be convex. That's the way to identify the side of the kidneys. Morris parallelogram is how to identify how to surface mark the kidneys in the posterior part. So you have to take two lines, 2 points, 2.5 centimeter and 7.5 centimeter opposite to the T12 vertebra. Same, you have to take another 2 points, 2.5 centimeter and 7.5 centimeters opposite to the L3 vertebra. Then you have to draw a parallelogram. In that, you have to mark the hilum 5 centimeter opposite to the L1 vertebra. So mark the hilum and draw the kidneys. Right kidney will be slightly lower than the left kidney because of the liver on the right side. So that's the way to mark the surface mark the kidneys from the back. So why we have to know this is, you can expose the kidney from the back, posterior approach, or from the front, that will be the anterior approach. So for that you should know the Morris parallelogram. So renal segments, for every viscera you have to know the segments, vascular segments, that may be asked as short notes. So in this supplied by branch of renal arteries, we have 5 renal segments in each kidney: apical, upper and anterior, middle and anterior, inferior and posterior. So there are 5 renal segments in each kidney. If you know the renal segments, it will be helpful in the surgical resection of the kidneys. So the applied anatomy, you should know the renal angle. In the posterior surface, we have covered what is the renal angle. Is the angle between the lower border of the 12th rib and the lateral border of the rectus spinae will be the renal angle. And Morris parallelogram, just now we have finished. That's the surface marking of the kidneys from the posterior side. So this completes the gross anatomy of the kidneys. We have seen in detail about the presenting parts of the kidneys, axis of the kidneys. Now we will see the last aspect of this applied anatomy. For every viscera, you have to learn in this order: congenital, infection, tumors, any investigation you should know. So, congenital abnormalities of the kidneys, the size may be, in the developmental abnormalities may be many. Size, one kidney may be very small in size. Shape, sometimes the kidneys may be fused in the lower ends so that they will be forming the pancake shaped kidneys. Position, the kidneys develop in the lower lumbar region and ascend, so that may be arrested in any place. So there may be the any abnormalities of the position of the kidneys. Polycystic kidneys is the kidneys developed by two parts. If you know the development of the kidneys, secretory part and collecting parts. So if the two parts do not fuse, that leads to the polycystic kidneys. And if the inflammation of the kidneys will be the nephritis, and we may have the tumors of the kidneys presenting as many symptoms. Investigation of the kidney is the pyelography. There may be two ways of pyelography. Intravenous pyelography, that is the, you have to give the contrast material in the intravenous line, then that contrast will be excreted by the kidneys, then we can visualize the calyces and the ureter. That will be called as descending pyelogram. Or if you are injecting the contrast material via the urethra, urinary bladder to visualize the kidneys, that will be the ascending pyelogram. So here you can see the pyelogram. So that is the seeing the, usually the kidneys are not radio, we can't see in the x-rays if you take normal x-rays. So that contrast x-ray is the pyelogram. So here you can see the calyces and the ureter and the bladder. So this x-rays will be called as contrast x-ray. So this completes this class.